The Galactic Betrayal. The golden halls of the Galactic Federation stretched endlessly above Commander Sarah Chun's head, their crystalline walls reflecting the light of 1,000 distant stars. She had walked these corridors for 3 years, representing humanity's interests among the 47 member species of the most powerful alliance in the galaxy. Today, those same halls felt like a tomb. "The decision is final," announced Chancellor Vexter, his 6 arms folding across his cavernous chest. The insectoid leader's compound eyes showed no emotion as he delivered humanity's death sentence. Earth's petition for emergency reinforcements has been denied. The Zephyrian advance cannot be stopped, and we will not sacrifice our fleets for a lost cause. Sarah's hands clenched at her sides. Around the circular chamber, representatives from dozens of worlds avoided her gaze. These were the same beings who had welcomed humanity into their alliance with open arms just 5 years ago. The same ones who had praised human innovation, human courage, human potential. Now they sat in silence as her species faced extinction. "We gave you everything," Sarah said, her voice echoing in the vast chamber. "When the Corvani rebellion threatened your trade routes, human soldiers bled in space. When the synthesis plague nearly destroyed the Altarian colonies, our scientists worked day and night to find a cure. We've been your shield, your sword, your solution to every crisis for 3 years." Chancellor Vexter's mandibles clicked dismissively. "And we are grateful for humanity's sync boats, ... enthusiasm. But the Zephyrians are not pirates or plague carriers. They are the ancient enemy, the ones who nearly destroyed the galaxy 10,000 years ago. They possess technology that makes our finest weapons look like primitive tools. Already, they have consumed 17 star systems in just 2 months. Then we fight together," Sarah pleaded. "Combined, our fleets could die gloriously and accomplish nothing." Interrupted Admiral Kethron of the Draconian Navy. His scaled features showed something Sarah had never seen before in a Draconian: fear. "The Zephyrians don't just destroy worlds, Commander. They consume them. They turn entire planets into raw materials for their war machines. They strip away everything that makes life possible and leave nothing but dead rock floating in space." Sarah looked around the chamber one final time. The Valkyrie, with their elegant crystalline forms, studied their data tablets with sudden intensity. The massive Therian representatives, each one capable of tearing apart a battle tank with their bare hands, seemed to shrink in their seats. Even the telepathic Mentari, who had always been humanity's strongest supporters, couldn't meet her eyes. "So that's it?" Sarah asked. "You're abandoning us?" "We're being practical," Chancellor Vexter replied. "The Zephyrians have already breached your outer defense perimeter. By our calculations, Earth has perhaps 2 weeks before they arrive in your system. We cannot risk our fleets in a battle that cannot be won. But maybe together we could. The decision is final, Commander Chen." The Chancellor's voice carried the weight of absolute authority. "The Federation Council has voted. Humanity is on its own." Sarah turned and walked toward the exit, her footsteps echoing like gunshots in the silent chamber. At the doorway, she paused and looked back at the assembled representatives. "History will remember this moment," she said quietly. "Not as the day the Federation was practical, but as the day it revealed what it really was. A collection of cowards who abandoned their allies when they needed them most." The massive doors sealed behind her with a soft whisper, cutting off any response from the chamber. Sarah made her way to the Human Embassy's communications center, where Lieutenant Jake Morrison waited with a grim expression. "The fleet withdrawal is complete," he reported. Every Federation ship has pulled back to the secondary defense line. We're alone, Commander. Sarah nodded slowly, then activated the quantum communicator that would carry her message across the light years to Earth. The holographic display flickered to life, showing the tired face of General Harrison, Earth's military commander. Sarah, he said, relief evident in his voice. Please tell me you have good news. I'm sorry, General. The Federation Council has voted to abandon us. No reinforcements, no support, no aid of any kind. We're on our own. The silence stretched between them, broken only by the hum of the quantum transmitter. Finally, General Harrison spoke. How long do we have? 2 weeks, maybe less. The Zephyrs are moving faster than anyone predicted. They've already consumed the outer colonies. Mars fell 3 days ago. Then we'd better get to work, Harrison said grimly. I'm issuing evacuation orders for the non-essential population, military personnel and critical infrastructure workers only. We'll make our stand on Earth. Sarah felt tears threatening at the corners of her eyes. General, the Zephyrians have technology that makes our best weapons look like stone axes. We can't possibly win, Harrison interrupted. But we can make them pay for every inch of ground. We can show the galaxy what humanity is made of. And maybe, just maybe, we can buy enough time for our people to find a way to survive. The transmission ended, leaving Sarah alone with her thoughts. She stared out the viewport at the stars, each one representing a world that had chosen safety over loyalty. Lieutenant Morrison approached quietly. Orders, Commander. Pack everything. We're going home. The journey back to Earth took for days, during which Sarah watched the galaxy's news feeds with growing horror. The Zephyrians weren't just conquering worlds, they were erasing them. Entire civilizations vanished overnight, their planets stripped, bare and converted into raw materials for the advancing fleet. The ancient enemy had returned with a vengeance, and nothing seemed able to stop them. As Earth appeared on the view screen, Sarah gasped. The planet's surface was already scarred by the preparation for siege. Massive defensive installations dotted the continents, their energy signatures bright against the darkening sky. The moon had been hollowed out and converted into a fortress, its surface bristling with weapons that humanity had never been able to afford before. They're using everything, Morrison observed. Every piece of technology we've acquired from the Federation, every weapon design we've studied, every defensive system we've ever dreamed of building. Desperation breeds innovation, Sarah replied. When you're facing extinction, you find resources you never knew you had. The transport ships settled into Earth's primary spaceport, where General Harrison waited with a small escort. The man Sarah remembered as energetic and optimistic now looked decades older, his face etched with the weight of impossible responsibility. Welcome home, Commander, he said. I wish it were under better circumstances. What's our status? Sarah asked. They walked toward the command center. Better than expected, actually. The Federation withdrawal freed up a lot of resources. We've been able to retrofit our entire fleet with hybrid technology, human engineering combined with alien components. It's not pretty, but it's effective. They entered the command center, where hundreds of technicians worked at stations displaying tactical data from across the solar system. The main screen showed a three-dimensional map of space, with red markers indicating the Zephyrian advance. The enemy fleet was vast, stretching across multiple star systems like a plague of locusts. How many ships? Sarah asked. Initial estimates suggest over 50,000 vessels, ranging from scout ships to planet killers the size of small moons. They're moving in a coordinated pattern, consuming everything in their path, and our fleet. 3,000 ships, most of them converted civilian vessels. We've armed cargo haulers, passenger liners, even deep space mining rigs. Every human ship that can mount a weapon is joining the fight. Sarah stared at the display, the numerical disparity making her stomach turn. We're outnumbered nearly 20 to 1. But we have advantages they don't, Harrison said. We know our home system better than anyone. We've had time to prepare, and we have something they've never encountered before. What's that? Humans, who refuse to surrender. Over the next week, Sarah watched as Earth transformed itself into a fortress. The planet's population, reduced to less than 1 billion through evacuation, worked with desperate efficiency. Factories that had produced consumer goods now churned out weapons and ammunition. Research stations developed new technologies by combining human creativity with alien science. Even children too young to fight contributed by maintaining communications, equipment, and supporting the war effort. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Marcus Webb, a quantum physicist who had been studying captured Zephyrian technology, burst into the command center with eyes bright with discovery. "Found it," he announced. "Their weakness, the Zephyrians aren't as invincible as we thought." "Explain," Harrison ordered. Dr. Webb activated a holographic display showing the internal structure of a Zephyrian vessel. "They're not just using technology," he said. "They're using living technology. Their ships are partially biological, grown, rather than built. And like all living things, they have vulnerabilities." Sarah leaned forward. "What kind of vulnerabilities?" "They're susceptible to certain quantum frequencies. Frequencies that can disrupt their biological components and cause cascade failures throughout their systems. The problem is generating. Those frequencies requires enormous amounts of energy." "How much energy?" Harrison asked. "More than any single ship can produce. We'd need to combine the output of multiple vessels or find another power source entirely." Sarah felt a spark of hope for the first time in weeks. "What about the planetary defense grid? Could we modify it to generate these frequencies?" Dr. Webb nodded enthusiastically. "Theoretically, yes, but it would require completely reconfiguring the entire system. We'd have to abandon conventional weapons and bet everything on this one approach. And if it doesn't work, then we die," Harrison said simply. "But we die fighting, and maybe our sacrifice will give the rest of humanity a chance to survive." The decision was made within hours. Across Earth, millions of people worked around the clock to reconfigure the planetary defense grid. The massive weapons installations were stripped down and rebuilt, their power cores linked together in a network that spanned the globe. It was humanity's greatest engineering project, completed in just 6 days through sheer determination and collaborative effort. On the 7th day, the Zephyrians arrived. Sarah stood on the observation deck of the orbital command station, watching as the enemy fleet emerged from hyperspace. The sight was terrifying and beautiful at the same time. Thousands of organic-looking vessels, their surfaces pulsing with bioluminescent patterns, filled the void between stars. They moved with fluid grace, more like living creatures than machines. "All stations report ready," Lieutenant Morrison announced. "The quantum frequency generators are online and synchronized." "Fleet status?" Sarah asked. "All ships are in position. Admiral Torres reports the fleet is ready for final engagement." Sarah took a deep breath. knowing that the next few hours would determine whether humanity survived or joined the countless other species that had fallen to the Zephyrian advance. Around her, the command crew worked with quiet efficiency, their faces showing the same determination that had carried humanity through every crisis in its history. "Open a channel to all ships," Sarah ordered. "All frequencies, including the one the Federation uses for emergency broadcasts." The communications officer nodded. "Channel open, Commander." Sarah stepped forward, knowing that her words would be heard not just by every human in the fleet, but by every member of the Galactic Federation who had chosen to abandon them. "This is Commander Sarah Chen, speaking for all of humanity. Today, we face extinction. The Zephyrians have come to our world with overwhelming force, and we stand alone against them. The Federation, our supposed allies, have abandoned us in our darkest hour. They told us we couldn't win, that our cause was hopeless, that we should surrender and accept our fate." She paused, looking out at the advancing enemy fleet. "But they don't understand what it means to be human. We don't surrender. We don't give up. We don't abandon our friends when they need us most. Today, we will show the galaxy what humanity is truly capable of. Today, we fight not just for our survival, but for the principle that no one should face extinction alone." The transmission ended, and Sarah turned to face her crew. "All ships, prepare for battle. This is our moment. Let's show them what humans can do." The Zephyrian fleet accelerated toward Earth, their weapons charging with ominous energy. Humanity's smaller fleet moved to intercept, every ship carrying people who had chosen to fight rather than flee. The battle for Earth's survival was about to begin. The impossible victory, the first wave of Zephyrian fighters, swept toward Earth's defensive line like a swarm of metallic angels, their bioluminescent wings pulsing with deadly energy. Commander Sarah Chen gripped the railing of the orbital command station as humanity's fleet moved to intercept them. 3,000 human ships against 50,000 alien vessels. By every calculation, by every tactical analysis, it should have been a massacre. It was, just not the massacre the Zephyrians expected. "Quantum frequency generators at full power," Dr. Webb reported from his position at the modified defense grid. "Controls, all planetary installations are synchronized and ready. Fleet Admiral Torres, you are cleared to engage." Sarah ordered into her communicator. The human ships moved with a coordination that surprised even Sarah. These weren't military vessels in the traditional sense. They were cargo haulers retrofitted with plasma cannons, passenger liners equipped with missile pods, mining ships that now carried fusion bombs instead of, or processors. But they moved like a single organism, each ship knowing its role in the greater plan. The first contact came when a squadron of Zephyrian scouts engaged the human destroyer Defiance. The alien ships fired their bioplasma weapons, expecting to see the human vessel vaporized instantly. Instead, something impossible happened. The Defiance activated its quantum frequency emitters, and the Zephyrian ships began to convulse. Their organic hulls rippled like diseased skin, their weapon systems sparked and died, and their propulsion systems failed catastrophically. 3 scout ships died in the first 10 seconds of combat, their crews never understanding what had killed them. "It's working," Dr. Webb shouted over the communication system. "The frequencies are disrupting their biological components exactly as predicted." But the celebration was short-lived. The Zephyrian fleet adapted with frightening speed. Their larger vessels began generating interference patterns that partially blocked the quantum frequencies. The biological components of their ships started showing signs of rapid mutation, developing resistance to the human weapon. They're evolving their defenses in real time. Lieutenant Morrison observed grimly. The frequencies are becoming less effective with each engagement. Sarah watched the tactical display as the battle intensified. Human ships were falling now, overwhelmed by the sheer numbers of the enemy. The quantum frequency weapon was working, but not well enough. They needed something more, something the Zephyrians couldn't adapt to. That's when Admiral Torres made a decision that would change the course of the war. All ships initiate Protocol Omega, she broadcast on the fleet-wide channel. We're going to show these aliens what humans do when they're cornered. Protocol Omega was desperation incarnate. It involved ramming Zephyrian vessels with human ships, using the quantum frequency emitters at point-blank range where the alien defenses couldn't block them. It was suicide, but it was also devastatingly effective. The cargo hauler New Horizon was the first to implement the protocol. Captain Alina Vasquez piloted her converted freighter directly into the side of a Zephyrian cruiser, her ship's quantum emitters firing at maximum power. The alien vessel's biological hull began to dissolve like acid-eaten flesh, its systems failing in cascade as the quantum frequencies tore through its organic components. Both ships died in the collision, but the Zephyrian cruiser took to escort vessels with it as its dying convulsions tore through the enemy formation. "This is Captain Vasquez," came her voice over the communication system, barely audible through the static. "Target destroyed. Long live humanity." The transmission cut to silence, but her sacrifice had shown the way. Across the battlefield, human ships began implementing Protocol Omega. They couldn't match the Zephyrians in firepower or technology, but they could match them in courage. They could die in such a way that their deaths mattered. Sarah watched in horror and pride as her people threw themselves against the enemy with desperate determination. Every human ship that died took at least one Zephyrian vessel with it, sometimes more. The numerical odds were still impossibly against them, but the exchange rate was shifting in humanity's favor. "Commander," Dr. Webb said suddenly, his voice tight with excitement, "I'm reading massive energy fluctuations from the Zephyrian command ship. I think their central coordination system is biological too. If we could target it directly." Sarah understood immediately. How much power would we need? Everything we have. The entire planetary defense grid, all remaining ship emitters, everything synchronized and fired simultaneously. But we'd only get one shot, and we'd have to get close enough to bypass their jamming. Define close enough. Atmospheric entry. We'd need to bring their command ship down to Earth's surface and hit it with everything we have. Sarah stared at the tactical display, watching as the massive Zephyrian command vessel held position in the outer system. It was easily the size of a small moon, its organic surface pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that seemed to coordinate the entire enemy fleet. "How do we get something that size to come to Earth?" "We give them what they want," said a new voice. General Harrison had joined them on the command deck, his face grim but determined. "We make them think they're winning." The plan was audacious and desperate. Humanity would appear to retreat, drawing the Zephyrian fleet toward Earth while secretly preparing for the final strike. The remaining human ships would fall back in apparent defeat, leading the enemy command. Ship close enough to the planet for the quantum frequency generators to achieve a kill shot. "It means sacrificing our orbital defenses," Harrison explained. "We'd have to let them get close enough to bombard the planet. People are going to die." "People are dying already," Sarah replied. The question is whether their deaths will mean something. The order went out to all human forces: retreat to Earth's atmosphere and prepare for final engagement. To the It looked like victory. The human fleet was broken, their ships limping toward their home world in defeat. The alien command ship accelerated toward Earth, eager to claim its prize. As the massive vessel entered Earth's outer atmosphere, its gravitational effects began to cause tidal waves and atmospheric disturbances across the planet. The Zephyrian commander, a being known as Area 7, broadcast a message on all frequencies. "Humans of Earth," the alien voice said, its tone like music played on broken glass. "You have fought bravely, but your resistance is at an end. Surrender now, and your species will be absorbed into our collective consciousness. Your knowledge and experiences will become part of our eternal wisdom." Sarah stepped forward to the communication console. "This is Commander Chen, speaking for all of humanity. We have a message for you too." She paused, looking around at the faces of her crew. Every one of them knew they were about to die, but none of them showed fear. They showed determination, defiance, and something else. Pride. Pride in being human. In standing together, in facing extinction without flinching. "Our message is simple," Sarah continued. "Humanity doesn't surrender. We don't join your collective. We don't become part of your eternal wisdom. We remain ourselves, free and independent, until the very end. And if you want to destroy us, you'll have to pay a price that will make you remember our name for the rest of your existence." The transmission ended, and Sarah turned to Dr. Webb. "All stations report ready. Planetary defense grid is fully synchronized. All remaining ships are in position. Quantum frequency generators are at maximum power. Then let's show them what humans can do," Sarah said quietly. "Fire everything." The planet Earth became a star for exactly 17 seconds. Every quantum frequency generator on the surface fired simultaneously. Their combined output focused on the Zephyrian command ship. The alien vessel's biological hull began to convulse and dissolve, its organic systems failing in cascade as the quantum frequencies tore through its structure. But the command ship was massive, and its biological components were more resilient than the smaller vessels. It began to adapt, its organic systems mutating rapidly to resist the quantum attack. For a moment, it seemed like the strike might fail. That's when Lieutenant Jake Morrison made a decision that would echo through history. He was piloting the last human fighter in the battle, his ship damaged and his weapons depleted. But he had one thing left: his ship's reactor core, overloaded and ready to explode. "This is Lieutenant Morrison," he broadcast on all frequencies. "I'm going in. Tell Earth I said goodbye." His fighter screamed through the atmosphere, diving straight toward the Zephyrian command ship's primary biological core. The alien vessel's defenses tried to stop him, but Morrison's ship was small and fast, and he was flying with the desperate skill of a man who had nothing left to lose. The collision occurred just as the quantum frequency generators reached their peak output. Morrison's exploding reactor core created a breach in the command ship's hull, allowing the quantum frequencies to pour directly into its central nervous system. The effect was catastrophic. The massive alien vessel began to tear itself apart from the inside out. Its biological components turned against each other, its organic systems failing in cascade. The ship's death throes were visible from space as it broke apart in Earth's atmosphere, its burning fragments streaking across the sky like falling stars. Across the battlefield, the effect was immediate. The Zephyrian fleet, deprived of its central coordination, began to falter. Ships collided with each other, Attack patterns dissolved into chaos, and the overwhelming discipline that had made them so effective crumbled. But humanity's victory came at a terrible cost. The quantum frequency generators had drained Earth's entire power grid. The planet was dark, its defensive systems offline, its population huddled in underground shelters. The human fleet was reduced to scattered survivors, their ships damaged beyond repair. Sarah stood on the command deck, watching the surviving Zephyrian ships retreat into hyperspace. They had won, but it felt like defeat. Earth was devastated, its population reduced to a fraction of what it had been, its cities in ruins. "Commander," Lieutenant Morrison's voice came over the communication system. Sarah's heart jumped before she realized it was a recorded message, triggered by his ship's destruction. "If you're hearing this, then the plan worked. I want you to know that I'm proud to have served with you. We did something incredible today. We showed the galaxy what humans are made of." The message paused, and Sarah could hear the sound of alarms in the background. "Tell the galaxy that humanity doesn't surrender. Tell them that we stand by our friends and we fight for what's right. Tell them that we're still here and we're not going anywhere." As the message ended, Sarah became aware of new signals on the communication board. Ships were approaching Earth, but they weren't Zephyrian. They were Federation vessels, the same ones that had abandoned humanity in its darkest hour. "This is Chancellor Vextar," came the familiar voice over the communication system. "Commander Chen, please respond. We witnessed your battle, your victory. We want to talk." Sarah stared at the communication console for a long moment. Part of her wanted to ignore the message, to let the Federation representatives wait in space while humanity recovered from its wounds. But another part of her, the part that was still a diplomat, knew that this was an opportunity. "This is Commander Chen," she said finally. "You're welcome to land, Chancellor. But understand, this humanity has changed. We're not the same species that begged for your help. We've learned what we're capable of when we stand alone." Over the following hours, representatives from dozens of Federation worlds arrived at Earth. They came not as leaders of a superior alliance, but as beings who had witnessed something extraordinary. They had seen a species face extinction and choose to fight rather than surrender. They had seen courage in the face of impossible odds, sacrifice for the greater good, and the kind of determination that reshapes the galaxy. Dr. Webb worked around the clock to restore Earth's power grid using alien technology provided by the returning Federation ships. The planet's wounds would heal, its cities would be rebuilt, and its population would grow again. But humanity itself was forever changed. "We're not asking to rejoin the Federation," Sarah told the assembled representatives. "We're offering to form a new alliance, one based on courage instead of convenience, on loyalty instead of politics, on the principle that no one faces extinction alone." Chancellor Vextar's compound eyes studied her with something that might have been respect. "And what would you call this new alliance?" Sarah looked out at the stars, thinking of Lieutenant Morrison and Captain Vasquez and all the other humans who had died to prove that some things were worth fighting for. "We'll call it the Terran Accord, an alliance of species who understand that freedom isn't free, that courage is contagious, and that sometimes the smallest voice can speak the loudest. Truth." The negotiations took weeks, but the outcome was inevitable. Humanity had done more than survive the Zephyrian invasion. They had shown the galaxy what it meant to face extinction without flinching, to stand by your principles even when standing alone, to fight for what's right even when the odds are impossible. The Terran Accord would grow to include not just the original Federation species, but dozens of others who had been inspired by humanity's example. It would become the foundation for a new era of galactic cooperation, one built on mutual respect and shared sacrifice rather than political convenience. But that was in the future. For now, Sarah stood on the observation deck of Earth's rebuilt orbital station, watching the stars and thinking about the price of victory. Humanity had survived, but it had paid a cost that would echo through generations. They had learned that they could stand alone if necessary, but they had also learned that standing together was always better. The galaxy would never forget what had happened at Earth. They would never forget the species that refused to surrender, that chose courage over convenience, that showed the universe what it meant to be human. And in the years to come, when other species faced their own dark hours, they would remember the example humanity had set. In the end, that was humanity's greatest victory. Not the defeat of the Zephyrians, but the proof that even in the darkest, our hope could survive, that even when abandoned by all, courage could triumph, that even when facing extinction, a species could choose to fight rather than surrender. The stars shone down on Earth, and humanity shone back.